Somebody asked about a Hot Toys Wanda figure.
Yeah.
That would be an instant pre-order for me. That outfit was amazing.
Wasn't that good, dude? That's what I said. I was
It
like,
was
I'd love
alright.
to have one of them. Like, that'd be a good figure.
It was Henry
Yeah.
Alton.
Yeah. So, what did you think of the show? What did you think?
Did you
I
cry?
loved it. I thought, man,
That's a
yeah,
sick
I
Miles
cried.
Morales
I cried
figure.
hard.
I know Kevin
that
Smith
Miles-
did.
Yeah, that I mean, and not only did I cry, but they kept me crying for like 10 minutes straight. Like they just kept dragging. Like you knew that she was giving up her kids and Vision, and
Yeah.
they just kept it going. Like it was like ripping your heart out and then stepping on it a bunch.
See, I didn't get emotional.
I didn't either.
Really?
Not at all.
No, and I liked it. I thought because I was telling Rick, because Rick thought it was a bit underwhelming, like overall. And then I said that I thought it was. I agreed with what Matt Shackman, the director, said. Like he did an interview just a day or two ago, and he said that he knew, like he was confident that a lot of people would be disappointed by the finale because of a lot of the theories that are out there.
Yeah.
But he said that the show the show reaches its inevitable conclusion. And I totally agree with that statement.
It did.
The show 100% concluded. Everything was inevitable. Like that's exactly how
She
I feel
wasn't
like
gonna
it should
keep-
have happened. And
She wasn't going to keep a town hostage for the rest of her life. I mean,
yeah, but for sure.
ultimately, she's a good person. She was overwhelmed by her grief and her mind split at one point, and she lost control. But it wasn't an intentional thing. She didn't even know that she was hurting those people.
I could totally see the argument though, because like that people would make if like here's the thing. She didn't really receive any sort of punishment or anything, but she's also didn't get off scot-free. She's just on the run. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So
Yeah.
it's like I could see people like obviously a lot of there were a lot of rumors out there that like it was going to end badly in some way, right? Because she's been holding people hostage.
Nobody-
they're all going to die and all this stuff. Like
Nobody died. I mean, ultimately, yeah, these people lost a large chunk of their life, an entire summer of their life to being basically held hostage. But she didn't murder anybody. She didn't
actually,
kill
no. She answer me this then. What happened to Agent Franklin,
The beekeeper? He's fine. He made it out. He's fine. They just didn't show us.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
How do we know he didn't make it out?
Because if you remember, that happened before Monica got expelled from the Hex. When Monica got expelled from the Hex, Hayward says that we now have our first-hand contact from someone who's been outside of the Hex. That was Wanda. Wanda.
That's a continuity error on the part of the makers of
No,
the show.
they fucking Wanda killed him.
No, she didn't.
Literally said no. And then the ship reset and we never saw him again. She killed the man.
No, she did not. Oh
She
my God.
100% killed
And
the
Reed
man.
Richards was going to deliver the car. I mean, come on.
No, he could have, but he didn't. But the dude died 100%.
I think people were so starved for MCU content after a year and a half of being away because of the pandemic. I think everybody went off the rails on their theories and their hopes and their hype for this show. Like, this show I thought was perfect. Like, I thought for what it was, this was a perfect show. This was a great way to introduce the series format to the MCU. It had some stakes. There is some definite advancement of the entire MCU plot, but you're not getting the Fantastic Four premiering in this show. You're not getting Mephisto making his appearance in the MCU in this show. You know, the
show didn't need all that.
It wasn't.
I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah, it wasn't an Avengers level event, and so I was
Avengers level threat.
I would argue it definitely was an Avengers level threat, but it was 4,000 people being mind controlled, held hostage, and no one could get in. It was reality was being literally manipulated. Like it's definitely an Avengers level threat.
I could. I mean, I could see that being the case, but it's still like again, I think people got so starved for MCU content that they were just they wanted this to be more than ultimately it was. And to be fair, I think that a lot of people took a lot of what was said about the show and like when Kevin Feige said it leads directly into Doctor Strange in the, multiverse of madness. I think that people thought that like the last scene of this show would be the first scene of the multiverse of madness. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that,
Well, that's what we were talking
clearly
about.
clearly Wanda's going to be in that movie, and she's probably going to Doctor Strange to look for help because she was clearly told you're even more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. So she has that
I
connection
don't think
now.
she's
But
going to look for help. I think she's gonna like she was going through the dark hold at the end. Like I think she's gonna cause problems. And Doctor Strange is obviously kind of like, what are you doing?
Yeah, look into it.
What are you doing? Like, because once he finds out that Wanda is the Scarlet Witch, he's gonna have to. Here's the thing, and that's the one thing too. Like with Agatha, Agatha wasn't necessarily like she was a bad guy, but she kept saying that like she's dangerous. Like you were literally here. Like the Scarlet Witch is prophesized to literally destroy the world. Like, so I'm pretty sure Doctor Strange, being the Sorcerer Supreme, he knows all about the Scarlet Witch and the legend of the Scarlet Witch. So once he finds out that the Scarlet Witch is a thing, he's gonna have to step in to do something. Now, not necessarily like stop her, but like if she's doing bad stuff, he already flat out said to Tony and in Spider-Man, like, comes between you and the time stone and the fate of the universe, like I'm choosing the stone. Like he'll end the bee if he needs to.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
no, I mean I could see it ultimately coming down to a confrontation between those two. I just don't think we're at the beginning of what is this, phase 4, phase 5? I just don't see them doing a Avengers versus Avengers movie like a Civil War level event this soon.
Oh, they're
I
not gonna do that. It's just it's he said it's the arc is this Spider-Man and that. It's not gonna be a big Avengers thing. But it doesn't mean that she's not gonna like not be the bad guy. She could very well be the villain for Doctor Strange too. Very well. I'd honestly
We'll
be
see.
surprised if she's not. Or if she doesn't
She
cause
very
the
well
badness.
could be. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Madness.
Like she might not be like the Agatha Harkness, but she could be the catalyst of the multiverse of madness. Like her doing this dark cold shit, trying to get her kids back and all this stuff was just leading into like it causing problems. You know what I mean? What problems? Who the hell knows? But they're definitely they set this Scarlet Witch lore up to be like akin to the freaking Phoenix Force, like to some like bad thing, like potentially bad thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which makes me wonder when this was all conceived and written, if this was pre them knowing that they were getting the X-Men back, and this was their way to bring in that Phoenix Force level threat to the MCU.
Well, yeah, and that's what like Lewis R in the chat just said the same thing that I was like saying earlier with Doctor Strange. Like there were multiple times where and I was kind of just saying this about the Scarlet Witch thing. Like once Doctor Strange, like if Agatha knew about the Scarlet Witch, then the lore behind the Scarlet Witch and the prophecies and all this stuff, Doctor Strange has heard of it too. So it would have made sense for him to show up.
He really should have.
Like you'd think, but I think the thing is though too,
But
you got to
that's
remember he was dusted too. He's just been back as long as Wanda has. So he's got trying to catch up on some stuff, He's it's Wanda's show. I mean, in all honesty, like Doctor Strange didn't need to show up for it.
And it's I mean, that's the age-old question in inter-universe story, though, is like every time something bad happens in Gotham City, why doesn't Superman just show up and fix it? You know, I mean, like at some point you kind of just have to roll with the story and
Yeah.
go along for the ride and suspend that rational part of it.
Although I totally see, like, as I do agree, like I don't
Because it's
agree that,
specifically magic.
yeah, because that's what Lewis was saying.
No,
Like,
I understand.
is
Like,
because
he makes a good point.
and that was my kind of point where with her being in, because the real obvious answer for that is, well, that's what's happening in Doctor Strange too. Like that, well, that's what's
Or there's
already been
something else
teed up for
magical
it.
going, yeah, there's something else magical that he warranted as a more pressing matter that he was taking care of at that time.
It's true.
Yeah, like
Very
the
possible.
freaking Infinity Stones being gone. You know, because that's the thing. Like this was only a couple weeks after everyone came back,
Yeah.
which is like a lot of people I think forgot too. Is like
He
with all
could
the
be he could
theories and stuff.
with all of the magic users, half of them having been dusted, maybe that broke down a bunch of magical barriers protecting our realm, and maybe while this was going on, he was reestablishing those magical barriers or those magical protections that he had in place.
Not to mention too, maybe there's some other like interdimensional beings that, you know, because he's got to deal with. He already knows about different dimensions and stuff. You know, so who knows? Once half the universe was dusted, there could have been a huge power vacuum out there. I mean, the Sorcerer Supreme was gone during for 5 years. So pretty sure someone like Dormammu would have been trying to take advantage of that, you know, like so there was probably some interdimensional magic mayhem already
Shenanigans.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like now that he's back, he probably had his hands full with trying to reestablish order amongst all these different dimensions, like to say like Sorcerer Supreme's back, y'all.
Right.
Like no more mayhem and shit, you know? What did you think about the? Because I know I was talking about this with Rick before. Because at one point when we were talking about the Evan Peters Pietro thing, you said yourself a couple times that you would be kind of like
Oh
not so
yeah,
much
yeah.
disappointed, but you're like confused as to like, well, why bring him in if he's not? You know,
I'm very disappointed, and we talked about last week, I think last week or maybe even the week before on the show, like that it feels like a really cheap trick they played on the audience.
It really
Like
does.
I
you
agree.
had this kind of coincidence where you had two Quicksilver people at, in playing at the same time. Why did they bring in the person that played Quicksilver in the Fox franchise to play that character? Why didn't they hire somebody else? It just like I think you even mentioned, like, would they have, the next X-Men movie that comes out, are they going to hire Professor X, or not Professor X, are they going to hire Patrick Stewart to come in and teach a class and then not be Professor X? Like it's just a weird decision,
Well,
casting
here's the
decision.
thing. Here, let me tell you. Let me hit you with this because I was telling Rick this earlier too because I was watching John Campia was talking about this and he brought up a good point. And I do agree because, and I said this before too, because I did say that it would be him the way it was the way they brought Evan Peters in, like they brought him in as Quicksilver as a cliffhanger, like literally that he was a cliffhanger
Sure. Oh, they knew
episode.
exactly what they were
So
doing.
yeah, exactly, and I think that is what makes it cheap. Had we known from the start that he was playing Ralph Boner, and then we saw Agatha put a spell on him to like do the Quicksilver trick, then I think everyone would have been like, "That's a cool nod." Like
Not to the X-Men franchise. Yeah.
because what John Campia's point was, and I do agree with this, and I was telling Rick this earlier as well, like for years upon years upon years, fans have always wanted to have like Tobey Maguire show up as like Uncle Ben for Tom Holland or something, or
Yeah.
have Charles Xavier, like you said, like have Patrick Stewart show up and do like a cameo role in a new X-Men movie or something. Like fans have been wanting stuff like that to happen for years. And then they finally do it with Evan Peters here, and people are mad. But again, it's because of how they set it up. They set it
Okay. So
up deliberately to deceive and throw people off, which I
that's an
think is cheap.
that's an
But
interesting point because that the CW shows, not that they're on the level of the MCU,
right,
but to be fair, the CW shows knows how to do those cameos, it seems like, better than the MCU because the CW for years has brought back older Christopher Reeve came back and played a professor in a physics
yeah,
professor
and
on
Smallville, right?
Smallville. They never pretended. They didn't bring him back and say he was like Jor-El or he might be a lost Kryptonian. They just brought him back on the show and said, "Here's this guy. He's a physics professor." You know, they've brought Helen Slater back to play Supergirl's mom on the Supergirl TV show. Helen Slater played Supergirl. They didn't bring her back and imply that she was maybe Supergirl. And then, you know,
Exactly,
they tell the
exactly.
fans up front, so you go in knowing what's going on. And when
That
you
was my
don't,
point exactly, because
yeah.
it'd be the equivalent of with what they did would be like you see Spider-Man swing into frame, and then like he goes into his house and pulls the mask off, and it's Tobey Maguire. That's what they did with Quicksilver in this, with Evan
But then
Peters. They
yeah,
made you think he was fucking Quicksilver the whole time.
Yeah.
Like,
but then
he said he was Quicksilver, he, like, had super speed for fuck's sake. Like,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were making you think he was Quicksilver, like, no way around it. And then they're like, "Nah, he's Ralph Boner." And that's where I think it was cheap.
Yeah.
Like, and I could
No, I
totally see
agree.
why people are fucking offended or mad, like, I never really thought they would bring in because that was the first thing I told you. I was like, why the hell would Kevin Feige bring in characters from a failing X-Men franchise? Like, it like makes no sense. That was the first thing I said. But then as time went on and we saw him, and then he had super speed, and I was like, well, maybe fuck, dude, maybe maybe he is Quicksilver. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It was
totally different situation if they, like, have someone come in as a cameo or because you know from the start. That's why, like, if he was Ralph Boner and we knew he was Ralph Boner and then Agatha put a spell on him and the plan was to trick Wanda, then everyone would have thought it was cool. Like,
yeah.
because it would have been a nice nod. Not cliffhanger and make you think that he's Quicksilver for 2 hours because essentially it was like 4 episodes that you're sitting here like, "Well, is he what is he?" Like, it's kind of, eh.
Do you think that the pandemic had any influence on how this all played out? Do you think that had the pandemic not happened, had all their movies come out on time? Because this was originally WandaVision was originally their second series. Like it was supposed to be Falcon and Winter Soldier and then WandaVision later. And I'm not sure when Doctor Strange was supposed to be out. If it was supposed to be out before WandaVision or after. But I'm wondering if
Before
that's
or I
it
mean,
was
after. The Wanda was supposed to be before Doctor Strange, but yeah,
it's always been before.
yeah, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier did this at least the release was 100% affected by the pandemic because they weren't able to finish Falcon and Winter Soldier because of the pandemic. Like they just happened to already have everything wrapped shooting wise on WandaVision, despite it was being supposed to initially have been released after Falcon and Winter Soldier. They still weren't done with Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like,
Okay. Well,
so yeah.
my only thing was maybe my only thinking was if pre-pandemic Doctor Strange was supposed to come out first and they established the multiverse, if they were going to play this Evan Peters thing off as a multiverse Quicksilver, but then couldn't because it hadn't been established and they kind of rewrote it to make it work. But if it's always been WandaVision and then Doctor Strange, that doesn't really
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, and they happened, like I said, they had this one in the can. Like, even though it was gonna come out after, they were done with this. It was ready to go, so they just did it. They just changed it around. Weird though, because I don't know, because even still, because I brought this up last week, and because it's obvious how it ended, how it's gonna tie into Doctor Strange too. That's obvious. What's not obvious is how the fuck does this tie into Spider-Man 3? Like, how is it? What's gonna happen for that? 'Cause I don't think we're gonna
Doesn't
see
she
Wanda in Spider-Man 3. I don't think
doesn't
that
she say that doesn't she say in this that she's going at the end of it, she's going to look for help? I thought
When?
at the end of this episode, when Wanda's leaving, I thought she said something about I'm going to look for help for what she had done or to understand her new powers.
Oh, she said she's gonna like understand it or something. Like, yeah, she was gonna like learn something. But then that's where like the post credit scene had her going through the dark hold.
The post-credit scene?
Did you not watch both the post credit scenes?
Oh,
One
I
of
guess
the-
not.
There's two of them.
Mm.
I
watched
said in Discord there was two post credit scenes.
I responded to that.
I didn't see Discord before.
Oh, then
I
you're
watched
probably
it.
gonna completely change your tune and completely agree with what I was just fucking saying off the top about her being the bad guy. Like, if you go watch the post credit scene, like she's definitely gonna be the bad guy in some way or cause the bad stuff to happen. 100%. The post credit scene completely shows that. There's two
No.
post credit scenes though. The first one is kind of redundant. The last one though, that one tees up the bad Wanda for sure.
Yeah. Guess we'll see. Well, do you think they're gonna do anything more? Where do they go from here?
What do you mean?
Like, WandaVision is over. Is there going to be down the road like another show that has something to do with WandaVision? I mean, it's in the MCU, but I don't know what I'm asking. Like,
Show back. Agatha is literally like she is absorbing her power.
I think
Like,
she was
she-
totally giving her some of her power, but I think she was rationing it out. She was giving her a little bit at a time, knowing that she wouldn't be able to use it to use as a defense or to keep. Then at that point, Scarlet Witch is free to absorb all of her magic plus Agatha's magic back into herself, which is what it ultimately looked like.
I
She
get
did.
for sure,
Oh, man,
yeah.
so
That was
dope.
good stuff. And then too, like Rick didn't like this part, but what did you think about the battle of the minds with the visions? I thought that was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I don't want to
I
say I
love that.
didn't like it.
You
There was a little
said you didn't like it.
I said it was a little underwhelming.
I thought it was good. I thought it was
There was a
perfectly
little
in
philosophy
character.
in there. That was, yeah, I thought that was great.
That's pretty much how we beat Ultron at the end. They had the little talk with Ultron at the end of Ultron.
That's right. That's right.
I thought it was good. I liked it. What do you think? When do you think we're gonna see Vision again? Because now he's there.
He's out there. Yep. He's
Like-
doing something.
And he's not like he's Vision, but he's not Vision.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing too. They could be teeing up Mephisto for Multiverse of Madness because that was the one thing that because a lot of them. So if you know House of M and you know like the White Vision stuff, like Mephisto isn't a stretch. You know, when the kids in Mephisto, they have ties. White Vision and the kids, and like there's a lot of stuff that they set up and that they did do in some ways in the show. So I'm wondering if they're gonna like bring the kids, like maybe the kids are real in some capacity because she just heard Tommy yelling at the end. Like maybe that does come into play in Multiverse of Madness with Mephisto and the kids. Maybe. Oh,
mean,
it was
could.
not plugged in. Yeah, it was. But they have that cool scene in the comics though with White Vision and the kids where he's like, I look like Vision. I have all of Vision's memories, but I'm not your father, and I'm not your mom's husband. Like I'm something else. Like and it's like it's a cool scene in the comics, but they could be teeing that shit up. Like because now White Vision's out there, and like that's where they went with him. They didn't have him do that scene, but he had that conversation with Vision, and that's essentially what, Vision, fake Vision. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe something like that will happen. I don't know.
Emotional impact still hit me just as much, even though I kind of thought what was going to happen happened. I thought it was entertaining. Like, I mean, like you just said, the Vision fight was cool and like didn't ultimately just come down to, you know, a fight. There was some thought that went into it too and stuff. And so yeah, just the whole thing was all around good.
Yeah, I agree.
I couldn't have asked for more. I mean, you know, people that are disappointed by it. I'm sorry they're disappointed by it. I hope that they, you know, I hope Falcon and Winter Soldier gets them back, you know, on board, and I hope it lives up to their expectations. But I also think like
I wouldn't want to be
you
Falcon and Winter Soldier right now, having to follow
yeah,
it up.
yeah. I mean, you put this against anything not MCU related, comic book wise, in the past decade, well, hell, the past 40 years. I mean, I don't there's not a whole lot, you know, outside of the
Yeah.
MCU, there's not a whole lot of comic book stuff that's been produced that is better than what this was.
I would argue the hold that it had and the interest it gathered, like, globally hasn't been seen, and this is still kind of recent, but hasn't been seen since Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Like,
I
literally, there
agree.
hasn't been a single show that has captured the minds of the audience on a global scale since
Yeah,
Game of
I agree.
Thrones. And they didn't really stick the landing. But WandaVision, I feel like they stuck the landing. They definitely stuck it better than fucking Game of Thrones did,
Yeah.
for sure. I thought it was good though. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to be Falcon and Winter Soldier.
No,
I would
no,
not
no.
want to be Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I was telling Rick, and I said it before on the show and everything, like Falcon and Winter Soldier was my number one most anticipated MCU show until I saw that Loki trailer. Then that Loki trailer, Loki became my number one most anticipated show. I don't know what it was about it, but that one got me. Like that, I'm super hyped for that show. My
Mhm,
expectation level, and that's the crazy thing too, is my expectation for WandaVision was not high. I didn't think it was going to be bad. I just wasn't hyped for it like I was for Falcon and Winter Soldier and then Loki and all that stuff. Like even because we had trailers for all three of those shows before WandaVision started, and it wasn't on the top of the list. It was the least most anticipated for me, but the show was amazing.
mhm,
And like even now, I still can confidently say again, I would not want to be Falcon Winter Soldier having to follow it up. I almost feel like there's a very strong possibility that Falcon and Winter Soldier is in a position for failure right now. In all honesty, because I think it's not going to create the kind of global like intrigue that this show did. Like I think it's going to be a much more straightforward MCU run of the mill superhero kind of show. Not that it's going to be a bad thing.
mhm,
I just don't think it's going to have the it's not going to create the level of intrigue that WandaVision did at
mhm.
all. That's kind of what my thoughts going into it are.
I don't know. I think we might. I I think they might have some tricks up their sleeve still.
I don't know because that's the thing. Like, because I feel like that has to do with why um it kind of fell down for me on the anticipation level because the trailers for it they've seemed as kind of run of the mill.
Really?
Yeah, like, they haven't grabbed me, like, when I saw the Loki trailer, that shit piqued my interest. It looks good, it looks cool, like, it looks like there's, like, some stuff to it that isn't just so like, very surface level. The Falcon Winter Soldier stuff has all been very surface level looking. I think it's gonna be good.
I mean, I
I
don't know.
definitely would agree with that.
I guess it depends on what you're looking for out of it. Like, I like that the MCU has, you know, I like that WandaVision was tried something different with the sitcom aspect of it and introducing magic and the magical aspect of it. I think you still got a military espionage type component to the MCU, and I think that's right where Captain America always fell, and I think that's where Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to fall, and I think it's going to kind of reestablish that, for lack of a better way of put it, like that espionage corner of the MCU, and I think it's going to expand upon it some. So I clearly they're doing something with the Captain America persona and the what am I trying to say? The legacy of that character. And I think that's to me, that's, I mean, Cap was, at the end of the day, Cap was my favorite Avenger up through Endgame. And so I'm still very much into the continuation of him, even without him in it, because, you know, not just by default, but Cap was my favorite Avenger because I loved his stories, and I loved his story so much because I loved all of the characters and all the people, including Sam and Bucky. And
yeah, I love Bucky, dude.
Sam and Bucky try and carry on that legacy now that Steve is gone is I'm really eager to see that. Plus, it looks just like fun too. Like I mean, at the end of the day, there's something to be said for being able to watch something and not spend an entire week trying to deconstruct it and just be able to enjoy it for what it is.
True.
Like, that doesn't take away from the I don't know, the quality of something just because I don't spend a week, analyzing who's going to deliver a car. Like, I kind of, it'll be nice to watch it.
No,
it'll be nice.
It wasn't though, because I said this before. They had 2 lines in that car thing. Like, everyone else, the fans blew that out of proportion. It had nothing. Like, they said 2 things. They referenced that fucking car and the engineer, and it's just like, it's gonna be Reed Richards, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that.
Yeah,
like,
everybody was
like, they said 2 things, 2 sentences. No one set that up.
On the show, that would have been the most underwhelming way to introduce such major characters into this universe. But
yeah, I don't agree with you on that part. I think it would have been fine if they did have it be somebody, because like that's the perfect little cameo, like someone coming in to do. You know what I mean? Because they're just there, they just doing that one thing, and then they're out. They're like, if they would have had like Reed Richards come in and like suit up and be Mr. Fantastic and shit for no reason in that scene, and just like stretchy arms, have like a whole scene with him like building the fucking car.
Arms.
Yeah, like stretching his arms out with all the wrenches and shit. Like, that would have been fucking stupid. But if they just had him show up and they're like, answer the phones, be like, name drop Reed Richards or something as just the guy who made the, like, that's fine. That would have been fine. It wouldn't have been bad. It wouldn't have been good. It would have been fine.
It would have been lame.
It would have been fine.
And you don't introduce characters that way. He is one of the biggest characters in all of comics. You don't.
Is he?
They know how to.
He is to us nerds, but dude, he's had 2 movies and no one gave a goddamn shit about him. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? No one cares about Mr. Fantastic. Only we do. You know? Like, no
one cared about Iron Man either until the MCU got him. So
that's true.
No one cared who I was until they
put
on the mask.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what they'll do. They'll give Mr. Fantastic a fucking new costume with a mask, and then boom, everyone's gonna care about who he is now.
Like a flashy.
I gotta grab a drink. I'll be back in.
All right.
Oh man. A lot going on.
So what are you looking forward to? Because you're not the biggest MCU fan, Rick. So what are
This is true.
Are you looking forward to the Falcon and Winter Soldier show,
I think
or Loki?
Loki, I would say more so than Falcon and Winter Soldier. I just don't have any kind of like personal relationship to Falcon and Winter Soldier. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I've never really cared for them. I don't want to say that, maybe.
But that's the thing that's weird with me is like, Bucky was one of my favorite characters in the MCU.
I
Like,
know
Winter
you
Soldier.
you love him.
Dude, the way that Sebastian Stan plays him and what they've done with the character, I've loved it. I thought he's great. He's a very intriguing character. He's cool as fuck. He's got that vibranium arm now. Like, he's a cool dude.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, he's cool.
not a bad guy.
I mean, he's not a
Loki's
good
just
guy.
Loki though. Like,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. That's the Loki stuff has been played out. Like, he was the bad guy, and he was essentially the bad guy in Thor. He was a bad guy in Avengers, and then like he's been in just so many movies, you know.
yeah,
Like, so it was like when they were like, they finally killed him off in Infinity War, just to bring him back in Endgame to have this Loki series set up. You know what I mean? I was like, initially like, man, they're really just milking the Loki thing, and they're just continuing on with the fake death stuff, right? Like, no one can just be dead.
yeah.
Like,
No,
even
that's how it's like Star Wars.
exactly, like Vision was dead, not anymore, because he's back. Like, it may not be Vision, but it's Vision. You know, it's like Loki. Technically, Loki died. In the Loki in the show isn't actually Loki, but it's Loki. Like, he's there. Like, you know what I mean? So that's why I wasn't really like super hyped for Loki, because we just had so much Loki that I was like, well, whatever. I'm sure it'll be good. Like, I'll watch it, obviously.
Yeah,
But I was really hyped for Falcon Winter Soldier because I love Winter Soldier. It's cool. But then that Loki trailer happened, and that jumped to the top of my list. Like, I was like, that looks
yeah.
way better than anything I've seen for Falcon and Winter Soldier or WandaVision. Like, that Loki show went from probably my least anticipated, probably
The
like
most anticipated.
yeah, to my most anticipated. Because I don't know if it was one of my least. Because like, honestly, like, not that I thought WandaVision was gonna suck or anything, but it was. I was telling John, I think you stepped out. WandaVision was my least anticipated of the Marvel series.
Oh, that's how I felt.
Like,
I was just like, whatever.
of the three, like of Loki, Falcon, and Wanda, Wanda was at the bottom, then Loki, then Falcon. That is completely flipped around. Like, Falcon Winter Soldier jumped to the bottom, and then Wanda went to the middle, and Loki went to the top. That it might change once we actually start watching Falcon Winter Soldier. It might retake my hype. My hype level might go back up for it.
Yeah,
But as it stands now, completely flip flopped.
We got John back?
Loki's the one.